Firstly, you're going to peel and stick your stick and stitch patterns across your garment. These can either be used on one garment, as they are here, or across multiple, and you can stick them on in whatever arrangement you like. Now we're going to start with the outline of the bear, and we're going to use stem stitch. So I've poked the needle through the garment, leaving a little tail, and bringing the needle one stitch length ahead, but not pulling it all the way through. I've left a little loop that I'm holding down with my non-needle hand. And then I've brought the needle up through the centre of that last stitch, again bringing it a stitch length forward, holding that loop down, bringing the needle back up through the middle of the last stitch and pulling it tight. And then one stitch length ahead, pull the yarn leaving a little loop, hold that to the side, needle through the middle of that stitch and then pull it tight. And as you can see, this has created a really lovely 3D rope-like effect. But you need to ensure that every time you're holding that little loop to the side, it's always in the same direction. So here I've always held it to the left with my non-needle hand. Now where we've had to quickly change direction, and there's a right angle in the pattern as we've got here, I'm just finishing the one line with stem stitch to the side of the bear's face like this. I'm finishing off that line, and then I'm bringing the needle just slightly off center from my last stitch, and I'm starting a new line for the ear, just as I have done here. It's quite tricky to do a continuous stem stitch if you've got to change direction really quickly, so I think doing 2 individual lines of stem stitch works a little bit better. You're just going to continue doing stem stitch until the whole outline of the bear has been filled and the yarn's back to where you first started. Now to fill the inside of the bear, we're going to use a series of long and short stitches. This just helps create a really lovely texture, giving the effect of fur. So you want to make sure that all the stitches are lying next to each other, similarly to satin stitch, but as you can see here, all of them are varying in length. And you're just going to continue doing this, filling the inside of the shape, leaving gaps where you want the little inside of the ears, the nose and the eyes to be. As you can see, I'm doing all the stitches in the same direction, so they're all vertical stitches, just all different lengths, weaving those stitches in between one another to create a really seamless effect. as you can see, I've just left little gaps where I want to fill the shape with a different colour. Just do those last few little stitches. It's quite a time-consuming process to fill a shape, but I think just gives a really lovely effect, and it's worth that bit of extra effort. And then once that's done, to tie off the ends, you're just going to take that end bit of yarn. I just weave that through the inside of the knit to meet the little tail of yarn from where we started, and I tie those off together. Next up, we're going to fill the inside of the ears using Satin stitch. So this is just a series of short straight stitches running parallel completely next to each other. So going in through the bottom of the ear and then out through the top. And then bring the needle back down through the bottom and then through the top. And you can just continue doing this using your beige yarn until the whole inside of both ears has been filled. And then you're going to tie off just the same as we have done with other shapes. So just threading that end of yarn under the stitches on the reverse of the garment to join with the little tail left from where you started filling in the ear. And then I just tie those two bits off together. You could also just weave them both through if you didn't want a knot, and that would be fine to hold it in place as well. Next up, we're going to fill the beige parts of the nose, again using Satin stitch. But we're going to bring the needle into the centre following the outline of the nose and then bringing it out to the edge of that shape. So just in a clockwise motion in through the centre and then to the outside, almost in a little fan-like direction. Make sure each stitch is touching the previous stitch. I'm just leaving a gap in the middle where I'm going to go back and fill in the black for the nose. And you just continue this same motion, working in a clockwise direction, moving all around the shape, in through the middle, out through the top, always leaving just a little gap where you're going to go back and fill in the nose. And next up, the eyes. We're just going to do exactly the same method as we have done for the ears. So just a series of short, straight stitches using the thinner black yarn that comes in your pack. 3 or 4 of those should be plenty to fill in each of the eyes, and then tie off the ends the same method that we've done previously. Then for the nose, I'm going to start with outlining the shape with a little triangle. So just a series of 3 straight stitches where I want the outline to be, and just the third one here, and then just a few short straight stitches just to fill the inside of that shape. And then just a series of short straight stitches over the top of your beige yarn where you want the mouth to be. So I've just done one down the middle, and then one slightly angled to the right and one slightly angled to the left. And then again we'll tie off that black yarn the same as we have done before on the reverse. Next up, we're going to use Fishbone stitch to fill in our leaves. So we're going to start with one straight stitch down the centre of your leaf, just on your template where you've got a slightly darker line. And then we're going to bring the needle through the top of the leaf, just following the outline of the shape, and then down through the middle with one straight stitch. And pull your yarn through, and then the needle's going to come through the other side of the leaf and down through the middle. And you're going to follow the direction of the little lines marking the leaf is the same direction that you want the yarn to go in. So now through the top and then through the middle. And as you can see, these stitches I'm keeping as close as I can to the stitch previous. Through the bottom and through the middle, continuing this pattern until the whole shape has been filled. And as you come to the end of the shape, we're then going to finish with just one simple straight stitch at the end of the leaf, just to finish it off. Now for the mushroom, we're going to use exactly the same techniques as we have done to fill in the bear. So again, we're going to do stem stitch for the outline of the mushroom. So one straight stitch, pull that yarn slightly to the side, needle through the middle of the previous stitch and bring it a stitch length ahead. You're not going to pull the yarn all the way through, leaving a little loop. Hold that to the side, always in the same direction. Needle through the centre of the stitch, pull it tight, needle a stitch length ahead, always creating that little loop, holding to the side, and then needle through the centre of the last stitch until the whole outline of the shape has been filled. And to fill the inside of the shape, again, just as we did do with the bear, we're going to do a series of long and short stitches, all different varying lengths, leaving a gap on the mushroom where we're going to go back and fill in those little white spots. So just needle through the fabric and poke it back through. Just lots of individual straight stitches of varying lengths, but all going in the same direction. And then you just continue doing this same motion until that whole shape has been filled. And you can see that stem stitch for that outline has just created a really lovely little 3D effect. And then to tie off the mushroom, again the same as we've done before, thread that yarn through to meet the piece of yarn from the start, and I'm just going to tie those two bits together in a little knot and cut off any excess yarn. And then to fill in the little dots on the mushroom, again, this is exactly the same as we did with the bear when filling in the ears and the eyes. We're just going to do a series of long, straight stitches just to fill in the full little white spots. So you're going to go through the bottom of the spot and down through the top. 4 or 5 little stitches for each should be plenty until the whole shape has been filled. then for the little stalk of the mushroom, you're going to bring the needle up through the left and down through the other side, using satin stitch until the whole shape has been filled. So again, just a series of horizontal straight stitches that cover the full length of the stalk, moving from bottom to top until the whole shape has been filled. And then again, we're going to tie this off just as the same we've done with all of our other shapes. Thread that needle up to the top and then tie those two pieces in a little knot. Last but not least, I'm sticking a couple of little bees to add the finishing touches to the garment. Now to fill in the body of the bee, again we're going to use satin stitch. So just a series of straight stitches, needle through the bottom of the shape and then through the top. All stitches running in exactly the same direction until the whole body of the bee has been filled. The little stripes on the bee, we're going to use the same black yarn as we did for the bear, just adding 3 or 4 little thin stripes over the top of the body of the bee. So I think for this bee we're just going to use 3. Do that last one and then you'll tie off the black yarn, again the same as you have done previously. And for the wings, lazy daisy stitch. So pop the needle through the bottom of the wing and through the same hole, creating a little loop, needle through the top of the wing and anchor that loop into place. So needle through the bottom of the wing, bring the yarn through, pop the needle through the same hole, bring it up through the top of the wing, hook that little loop over, pull it tight, and then a little stitch to anchor the wing into place. Then you're going to wash the paper off under water or pop it in the washing machine on a wool wash, and you're done.